Maya Richardson stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows of her corner office, looking out at the city skyline. The late afternoon sun cast long shadows across the buildings, much like the shadow that had fallen over her company's culture reports. As the founder and CEO of Apex Innovations, Maya had built her tech empire from the ground up over 15 years. But something was changing in the halls of the gleaming headquarters she had designed. "These satisfaction numbers are troubling," she said, not turning from the window. Her voice, though soft, commanded attention. Behind her, Thomas Chen, her chief operating officer and friend of 20 years, flipped through the report on his tablet. "The numbers don't lie, Maya. Employee satisfaction is down 12% from last quarter. The comments section is even more concerning." Maya finally turned, her dark brown eyes revealing the determination that had taken her from a small apartment, coding until sunrise, to the leadership of a Fortune 500 company. At 45, she carried herself with the quiet confidence of someone who had overcome countless obstacles. Her natural hair was styled in a short, professional cut that framed her face perfectly, and she wore a tailored navy suit that spoke of success without shouting it. "Let me see those comments again," she said. Reaching for the tablet, Thomas handed it over, watching as Maya scrolled through the anonymous feedback. Her expression darkened as she read, "Management talks about respect but doesn't practice it. There's a clear divide between executives and support staff. Sometimes I feel invisible here," Maya read aloud. She placed the tablet on her desk with a sigh. "This isn't the company I set out to build, Thomas." "I know," he replied, loosening his tie slightly. "HR is already planning more inclusion workshops and—" "No," Maya interrupted, shaking her head. "We've done workshops. We've had consultants. Something isn't connecting." She walked to her desk and sat down, tapping her fingers thoughtfully on the polished surface. "The problem with reports and workshops is that people tell you what they think you want to hear." Thomas raised an eyebrow. "What are you thinking?" A slow smile spread across Maya's face, the kind that had preceded many of their company's most innovative moves. "I need to see for myself. Not as the CEO everyone recognizes, but as someone invisible to the corporate ladder climbers." "Maya?" Thomas's voice held a note of warning. He'd known her long enough to recognize when she was about to do something unconventional. "I'm going undercover," she said firmly. "As a member of the cleaning staff." Thomas stared at her for a long moment before breaking into a laugh. When Maya didn't join him, his laughter faded. "You're serious?" "Completely," she replied. "The cleaning crew sees everything, hears everything, but they're treated like they're invisible. If I want to know the true culture of this company, that's where I need to be." Thomas leaned forward, his expression concerned. "Maya, you're one of the most recognizable black women in tech. You've been on the cover of Business Week. How exactly do you plan to go unnoticed?" Maya stood up and walked to a small cabinet near her bathroom door. She pulled out a simple bag and placed it on her desk. "I've been thinking about this for a while," she admitted, unzipping the bag to reveal a short, straight wig with subtle gray streaks. "My mother always said I looked just like my Aunt Denise. For the few small changes, no one will look twice at me." Thomas shook his head in disbelief. "This is crazy. You're the CEO, not an episode of Undercover Boss." "It's exactly because I'm the CEO that I need to do this," Maya insisted. "How can I fix what's broken if I don't truly understand it?" She picked up a simple pair of glasses from the bag. "Besides, people see what they expect to see. No one expects to see the CEO emptying their trash can at night." Thomas could see the determination in her eyes, the same look she'd had when they'd taken on their first major competitor, when she'd refused a buyout offer that would have made them both incredibly wealthy, but surrendered their vision. He knew there was no talking her out of it. "Fine," he relented, "but we need a solid plan. How do you intend to get hired without raising suspicion?" Maya smiled, pulling a folder from her desk drawer. "Already figured that out. Apex contracts with Bright Star Cleaning Services. We don't directly hire our cleaning staff, which is another issue I want to look into, by the way. I've created a background for Denise Walker that will check out if they run a basic verification." Thomas took the folder, impressed despite his concerns. The documentation looked legitimate. A resume showing years of similar work. Contact information for references that would presumably lead back to people Maya trusted. "You've really thought this through," he said. "I didn't build this company without attention to detail," she replied. Denise has a spotty work history due to family caregiving responsibilities. She needs steady work with health benefits. She's hardworking but hasn't had many opportunities. Thomas looked up from the folder. And if someone recognizes you? Maya shrugged. Then the experiment ends early. But people don't really look at cleaning staff, Thomas. That's part of the problem I'm trying to understand. She walked back to the window, looking out at the building that bore her company's name in sleek, modern letters. I built Apex on the promise of innovation and respect for all. If we've lost our way, I need to know why. Thomas joined her at the window, his reflection appearing beside hers in the glass. How long are you planning to do this? 2 weeks, maybe 3, she said. I've cleared my calendar of in-person meetings. You'll cover the essentials and anything urgent can be handled via video call from my home office. As far as anyone knows, I'm working on our next big strategic initiative, which isn't entirely untrue. Thomas nodded slowly. And when do you start this? Adventure? Monday, Maya said, her mind already racing with preparations. I'll need the weekend to get ready. Denise Walker starts on the night shift on Monday. Over the weekend, Maya worked meticulously on her transformation. She practiced walking differently, less confident, more tired. She chose simple clothes that would blend in rather than stand out. The wig and glasses changed her appearance significantly, but she also practiced applying makeup that would subtly alter her features, making them less recognizable. On Sunday night, she stood in front of her bathroom mirror in full disguise. The woman who looked back at her was still Maya Richardson, but with enough differences that someone would need to look very closely to recognize her. She spoke aloud in a voice slightly different from her own, a bit softer, with a slight accent borrowed from her mother's Louisiana roots. Hello, I'm Denise Walker. Pleased to meet you. The transformation wasn't just physical. Maya had spent hours researching the realities of working as a cleaning person. The physical demands, the odd hours, the economic challenges. She'd watched interviews and read articles written by cleaning staff. She wanted to understand as much as possible before stepping into those shoes. Monday evening arrived quickly. Maya, now Denise, drove a borrowed older model car to the Bright Star Cleaning Services office for her orientation. The small office was located in a strip mall on the outskirts of the city, worlds away from the gleaming Apex headquarters downtown. Inside, she met with a harried manager who barely looked at her paperwork before handing her a uniform, a simple blue shirt with the Bright Star logo and matching pants. You're assigned to the Apex building, the manager said, checking her clipboard. Night shift, 8 p.m. to 4 a.m. Your supervisor there is Carmen. She's good people, been with us for years. She'll show you the ropes. Maya nodded, keeping her responses simple. Thank you for the opportunity. The manager finally looked up, her expression softening slightly. Carmen says they're decent over there as far as corporate clients go. Some of these tech places treat the cleaning staff like ghosts, but Apex is better than most. Maya felt a small flicker of pride at that, but it was quickly tempered by the realization that better than most was a very low bar. She wanted Apex to be exceptional in every way, including how it treated those who kept its spaces clean and functional. That's good to hear, she replied simply. An hour later, Maya pulled into the employee parking garage of her own building. But instead of heading to the executive parking area, she parked in the far section designated for service providers. She sat in the car for a moment, steeling herself for what was to come. This was her company, her building, but tonight she would see it through entirely different eyes. As she walked toward the service entrance, dressed in her Bright Star uniform with her ID badge reading Denise Walker, Maya felt a strange mixture of nervousness and excitement. At the entrance, a security guard she didn't recognize barely glanced at her badge before waving her through. It was her first lesson of the night, the invisibility that came with the uniform. Inside, she found a group of people in matching uniforms gathered around an older woman, with warm brown skin and silver-streaked hair, pulled back in a practical bun. This had to be Carmen. You must be Denise, Carmen said, breaking away from the group. Her smile was genuine and reached her eyes. Welcome to the team. First night cleaning? First night at Apex, Maya replied carefully. I've done this kind of work before. Carmen nodded approvingly. Good. So you know it's harder than people think. Come on, I'll show you your cart and your section. As she followed Carmen through the service corridor, of the building she had designed, Maya felt a surreal disconnect. She had walked these halls countless times, but never from this perspective. The building looked different from here. The beautiful architecture and design elements were barely visible from the back routes they were taking. "You'll be doing the executive floor tonight," Carmen explained, leading her to a supply closet. "Normally we wouldn't put someone new there, but Lisa called out sick, and it's actually one of the easier floors to clean, since they have the fancy offices with their own trash cans, not the open floor plan with a million little desks." Maya nodded, feeling a strange twist in her stomach. The executive floor was her floor. Would this bring her experiment to a premature end? Or would it provide exactly the insights she was looking for? "Don't worry about the executives themselves," Carmen continued, showing her how to organize the cleaning cart. "Most of them are gone by the time we start. You might see a few workaholics, but they usually just nod and keep working. Like I said, Apex is better than some places. At least here they look you in the eye sometimes." The bar was indeed very low, Maya thought. Looking someone in the eye should be the minimum of human interaction, not a point of praise. As Carmen walked her through the cleaning procedures and expectations, Maya listened carefully, absorbing not just the instructions but the offhand comments about which departments were messy, which were respectful, which executives worked late. "Ready to get started?" Carmen asked when the orientation was complete. Maya nodded, gripping the handle of her cleaning cart. "Ready as I'll ever be." As she pushed the cart toward the elevator that would take her to the executive floor, her floor, Maya felt a flutter of nervousness. Tonight she would begin to see her company through new eyes. Tonight, Denise Walker would start to uncover truths that Maya Richardson needed to know. Maya pushed her cleaning cart into the elevator, her heart racing as the doors closed. She pressed the button for the executive floor, her floor, and took a deep breath. The elevator music that she'd chosen personally years ago now seemed oddly out of place as she stood in her Bright Star uniform. When the doors opened, she hesitated before stepping out. The executive floor was dimly lit, with only security lights and a few desk lamps creating pools of light in the otherwise dark space. It was strange seeing it this way. Normally she arrived when it was bustling with activity. She consulted the cleaning checklist Carmen had given her. First empty all trash bins, then dust and wipe down surfaces, vacuum, and finally clean the restrooms. Simple enough. She pushed her cart toward the first office, belonging to the VP of Marketing, Alan Patterson. Alan's office was empty but bore clear signs of a hasty departure. Papers were scattered across his desk, an empty coffee mug balanced precariously on a stack of folders, and his chair hadn't been pushed in. Maya collected the trash, noting the crumpled papers that had missed the bin entirely. As she bent to pick them up, she noticed they were drafts of a marketing pitch, one she'd already rejected last week. "Interesting," she murmured, carefully placing the papers in the trash. Already she was learning things she wouldn't have known otherwise. She moved methodically from office to office, observing the small details that revealed personalities. The chief financial officer's office was immaculate, with nothing out of place and a nearly empty trash bin. The VP of product development had sticky notes everywhere with ideas scribbled on them. Her own office was locked, which made sense. Thomas would have made sure of that. As she worked, Maya was struck by how different the building felt at night. The subtle hum of the ventilation system, the occasional distant sound of a security guard's radio, the way her footsteps echoed in empty hallways. It was like being in a different world. She had cleaned half the offices on the floor when she heard voices coming from the conference room. Pushing her cart in that direction, she saw light spilling from the partially open door. She paused, wondering if she should come back later, but then remembered that Carmen had told her to clean around anyone working late. Knocking gently, she pushed the door open. "Excuse me, just here to empty the trash," she said in Denise's softer voice. 4 people sat around the conference table, laptops open, papers spread between them. Maya recognized them immediately. James Parker, Director of Client Relations, Diane Weber, Senior Project Manager, Philip Huang, Lead Developer, and Asha Patel from the legal team. James looked up first, his expression changing from surprise to annoyance. "We're in the middle of something important here," he said, his tone dismissive. "Sorry," Maya replied, keeping her eyes lowered as she moved to the trash bin in the corner. "I'll be quick. Can't you come back later?" James asked, not bothering to hide his irritation. I'm sorry, sir. I have to finish this floor before moving to the next one, she explained, keeping Denise's voice steady and respectful. Asha gave her an apologetic smile. It's fine, James, we can keep working. Maya emptied the bin efficiently, aware of the conversation halting as she worked. She could feel James watching her, his impatience radiating across the room. As she replaced the bin liner, she glanced at the whiteboard where they had been mapping out a strategy for a new client pitch. With a small jolt, she realized it was for Tomorrow Technologies, a potential client she'd been personally trying to land for months. All done, she said, moving back toward her cart. Finally, James muttered, just loud enough for her to hear. These people should work around our schedule, not the other way around. Maya froze momentarily, her back to the room. These people? The word stung more than she'd expected. James, Diane said quietly, her tone mildly reproachful. What? I'm just saying. We're trying to land a multi-million-dollar client here. The cleaning can wait, he replied, not bothering to lower his voice. Maya pushed her cart out without looking back, her hands gripping the handle tightly. Once in the hallway, she let out a slow breath. She'd expected to observe the company culture, but she hadn't expected to become the target of it so quickly. These people. As if the cleaning staff were somehow less than the executives working late. She continued her rounds, but now she was more aware of how she moved through the space, trying to be quieter, more invisible, to avoid being seen as an inconvenience. It was a strange feeling for someone who normally commanded attention when she entered a room. Around midnight, she took her scheduled break in the staff room on the ground floor. Several other cleaning staff were there, eating meals from home or sipping coffee to stay alert during the long night shift. Carmen was there too, warming something in the microwave. She smiled when she saw Maya. How's the executive floor treating you, Denise? Maya shrugged, settling into a chair with the sandwich she'd packed. Mostly empty. Ran into a few people working late in the conference room. Let me guess. Was one of them a tall guy with slicked back hair who looks like he thinks very highly of himself? Carmen asked, sitting across from Maya with her microwaved meal. Maya nodded, surprised. You know him? James Parker, Carmen said, shaking her head. That man has never said a single word to me in 3 years of cleaning his office. Not even good evening or thank you. Some of them think we're furniture that moves on its own. A woman at the next table, her name tag read, Teresa, joined the conversation. At least he doesn't leave food out to rot like the people on the 4th floor. Last week I found a half-eaten sandwich hidden behind a monitor. It was growing things, I swear. Another cleaner named Hector laughed. That's nothing. Try cleaning the bathrooms after the sales team has their monthly celebration. Those guys can't aim to save their lives. Maya listened as they traded stories. Some amusing, some frustrating, all revealing. It struck her that these people knew more about the day-to-day reality of Apex than she did. They saw everything. Which departments stayed late, which managers respected shared spaces, which teams left encouraging notes for the cleaning staff, and which ones couldn't be bothered to throw away their own coffee cups. What about the CEO's office? Maya asked cautiously. What's that like to clean? The table fell quiet for a moment before Carmen answered. Maya Richardson's office? We're not allowed in there most nights. Security protocol. When we do clean it, usually only once a week with supervision, it's always tidy. She seems to clean up after herself, which is more than I can say for most of the executives. I saw her once, Teresa added. She was working late and I was cleaning the hallway. She actually stopped and asked my name, thanked me for my work. Seemed genuine too, not just for show. Maya felt a small glow of satisfaction at that, though it was tempered by the realization that a simple human interaction was considered noteworthy. Have you all worked here long? She asked, genuinely curious now. The answers varied. Carmen for 7 years, Teresa for 2, Hector for just 6 months. As they talked, Maya began to see patterns in their experiences. The cleaning staff had a detailed understanding of the company's hierarchy and culture, formed through observation rather than organizational charts or mission statements. When break time ended, Maya returned to the executive floor with a new perspective. She finished cleaning the offices, noting small details she might have overlooked before. The family photos that revealed what people truly valued. The state of shared spaces that showed how people behaved when they thought no one important was watching. Around 2 a.m., the floor was completely empty. Maya found herself standing outside her own office, looking at the nameplate on the door. Maya Richardson, Chief Executive Officer. It was strange seeing her name as someone else. She tried the door, knowing it would be locked, and felt a curious sense of disconnection, locked out of her own space. As she cleaned the executive bathroom, Maya caught her reflection in the mirror. Denise Walker looked back at her, a woman in a cleaning uniform with tired eyes and graying hair. The disguise was holding, but more than that, the experience was already changing how she saw her company. In the early morning hours, as she wiped down the conference room table where she'd encountered James and his team, she found herself wondering what they would think if they knew who had cleaned up after them. Would James have spoken differently? Would he have seen her differently? By the time her shift ended at 4 a.m., Maya's body ached in ways she wasn't used to. Her feet throbbed, her back was stiff, and her hands were dry from the cleaning chemicals. She had a new appreciation for the physical demands of the job, so different from the mental exhaustion of executive decision-making. As she drove home in the pre-dawn darkness, still in her Denise disguise, Maya reflected on what she'd learned in just one night. The hierarchy she had tried so hard to flatten was still very much present. The respect she had tried to instill as a core value was inconsistently applied, and there were aspects of her company she had never seen before, despite her best intentions. She arrived home just as the sky was beginning to lighten. After a hot shower that washed away Denise's appearance but not her insights, Maya collapsed into bed. As sleep claimed her, one thought remained clear. She had only scratched the surface. Tomorrow night, Denise Walker would return, and Maya Richardson would continue to learn what it truly meant to be invisible in the company she had built. 2 weeks had passed since Maya first stepped into Apex headquarters as Denise Walker. In that time, she had settled into a routine that felt increasingly natural. Her body had adjusted to the night shift schedule, and her hands no longer stung from the cleaning chemicals. What hadn't changed was how much she was learning each night. Maya woke around noon, as had become her new normal. She checked her phone to find several messages from Thomas, updating her on company matters she needed to handle as Maya rather than observe as Denise. After responding to the most urgent emails, she made herself a strong cup of coffee and opened her notebook. Every morning after her shift, Maya had taken to writing down her observations while they were still fresh. The notebook was filling up with insights, some troubling, some encouraging, all valuable. She flipped through the pages, reviewing her notes from previous nights. The marketing team left encouraging sticky notes for the cleaning staff. The sales floor was consistently the messiest, with food wrappers and coffee cups left everywhere. The engineering team stayed the latest but always acknowledged the cleaning staff with a smile or nod. The executive assistants knew all the cleaners by name and often asked about their families. And then there was James Parker. Maya had encountered him several more times over the past 2 weeks, and each interaction had reinforced her initial impression. He never acknowledged her presence unless it inconvenienced him, and he consistently referred to the cleaning staff as these people, or the help, when speaking to colleagues. Maya sipped her coffee, thinking about last night's shift. She had been assigned to clean the HR floor, where she'd overheard a conversation about an upcoming diversity and inclusion initiative. The irony hadn't escaped her. The company was planning to spend thousands on consultants while missing the obvious problems right under their noses. Her phone buzzed with a text from Thomas. "How's the undercover operation going? Learning anything useful?" Maya typed back, "More than I expected. We have some real problems to fix, but also some bright spots." Thomas replied almost immediately, "Ready to come back to the executive suite yet?" Maya smiled. "Not yet. A few more days. There's a big client meeting tomorrow night. Could be interesting to see how the team prepares." Tomorrow night's meeting was with Tomorrow Technologies, the potential client whose materials she'd seen James working on during her first night. As CEO, she had been briefed on the pitch strategy, but as Denise, she might see a different side of the preparation. After finishing her coffee, Maya spent a few hours handling CEO work remotely, reviewing reports, approving strategies, and video conferencing with Thomas about pressing matters. It was strange balancing her two identities, but she was determined to see this through. That evening, as she transformed into Denise again, Maya felt a growing attachment to her alter ego. Denise had given her a perspective she could never have gained otherwise. She wondered what Carmen, Teresa, and the others would think if they knew their new colleague was actually the CEO. Would they feel betrayed, Or would they understand why she'd felt this deception was necessary? When she arrived at Apex that night, Carmen greeted her with a warm smile. "Denise, I've got good news. You're moving up in the world. You've been assigned to the big conference room tonight. Apparently there's some important meeting tomorrow and they want it spotless." Maya nodded, trying to hide her excitement at this perfect opportunity. "Sounds good. Anything special I need to know?" "Just make sure everything is perfect. Word is the CEO herself might attend this meeting, and she notices everything," Carmen said with a knowing look. "Not that you'll see her, it's happening during the day, but her team will be prepping late tonight." As Maya pushed her cleaning cart toward the elevator, she smiled to herself. If only Carmen knew. The large conference room was on the 35th floor, not the executive floor, but a space specially designed for important client meetings. When Maya arrived, the room was empty but showed signs of recent use. The whiteboard was covered with strategy notes and presentation materials were scattered across the table. She began cleaning methodically, starting with dusting the shelves and artwork. As she worked, she examined the presentation materials from a distance. The Tomorrow Technologies pitch was clearly high priority. The team had prepared extensively. About an hour into her cleaning, the door opened. Maya turned to see James Parker enter, followed by Diane Weber and Philip Huang. They all carried laptops and looked tired. "Oh," James said, stopping short when he saw her. "We need to work in here." "I'm almost finished," Maya replied in Denise's voice. "Just need to vacuum and then I'll be out of your way." James glanced at his watch with obvious impatience. "Can't you do that later?" "This meeting is extremely important. I'm on a schedule," Maya explained calmly. "But I can vacuum quickly." Diane gave her a sympathetic smile. "Take your time. We can set up while you finish." She turned to James. "Let's review the presentation one more time anyway. We need to make sure we're all on the same page before tomorrow." James sighed dramatically but took a seat at the far end of the table. Philip followed, opening his laptop without comment. Maya continued cleaning, now moving more efficiently. She could feel James watching her, his irritation palpable in the room. She kept her head down, playing the role of Denise perfectly while listening to their conversation. "The CEO is going to be there tomorrow," James was saying. "This could fast-track my promotion if we land this client." "Our promotion," Diane corrected mildly. "This has been a team effort, James." Sure, he replied dismissively. "But I'm the one leading the presentation. Richardson always notices who's out front on these things." Maya suppressed a smile as she began vacuuming. It was fascinating hearing how they spoke when they thought the CEO wasn't listening. She worked her way around the room, careful not to get too close to where they were setting up. As she finished, James took a call on his cell phone. His voice became louder and more performative, clearly trying to impress whoever was on the other end of the line. "Absolutely, we're fully prepared. I've personally overseen every aspect of this pitch." Diane and Philip exchanged glances but said nothing. Maya was just about to leave when she noticed a coffee spill near James's seat. She approached with a cloth. "Excuse me, sir. There's a spill here I need to clean up." James held up one finger without looking at her, continuing his phone conversation. Maya waited patiently, cloth in hand. After a full minute, he was still talking, now walking around the room, gesturing emphatically. "Sir?" She tried again. "The spill might stain if— Can you just wait?" He snapped, covering the phone briefly. "I'm in the middle of something important here." Diane looked embarrassed. "James, she's just trying to do her job." "And I'm trying to do mine," he retorted, before returning to his call with a completely different tone, smooth and professional. Maya bent down and quickly wiped up the spill anyway, not wanting it to set in. As she did, she noticed that James had dropped a flash drive on the floor. She picked it up. "Excuse me, you dropped this," she said when he finally ended his call. James turned, clearly annoyed at being addressed again. When he saw the flash drive, his expression changed to alarm. "Give me that," he said, snatching it from her hand without a word of thanks. Then, turning to his colleagues but speaking loudly enough for Maya to hear, he added, "Someone needs to tell these cleaning people about Persiany." "I'll space. First interrupting my call, now touching my things." Maya felt a flash of anger but kept her expression neutral. "I'll finish in the hallway," she said quietly, moving her cart toward the door. "James, that was unnecessary," she heard Diane say as she left. "What?" "Oh, come on. They're paid to clean, not to be thanked for it," James replied. Maya pushed her cart down the hallway, her hands gripping the handle tightly. She'd witnessed rudeness over the past 2 weeks, but something about James's behavior tonight felt different, more personal, more deliberately demeaning. During her break, Maya found herself sitting with Carmen and Teresa in the staff room. She was quieter than usual, still thinking about the interaction in the conference room. "You okay, Denise?" Carmen asked. "You look like something's bothering you." Maya hesitated, then decided to share. "Just had an unpleasant encounter upstairs. Someone treating me like I was invisible, then getting angry when I wasn't." Teresa nodded knowingly. "Let me guess. Tall guy, expensive suit, thinks he's God's gift to the business world?" "James Parker," Maya confirmed. Carmen shook her head. "That man has a reputation even among the cleaning staff. He once complained to management because I emptied his trash while he was on the phone. Said I was disrupting important business. How do you handle it?" Maya asked, genuinely curious. "The disrespect, I mean." The women exchanged glances and Teresa sighed. "You get used to it, I guess. Some days it bothers me more than others. I try to remember that their behavior says more about them than about me." Carmen nodded in agreement. "And we notice who the good ones are, too. The ones who learn our names, who say thank you, who see us as people. You hold on to those moments." Maya felt a lump in her throat. These women had developed resilience in the face of daily indignities that she, as CEO, had been completely unaware of. It was humbling and infuriating at the same time. After the break, Maya returned to the 35th floor to finish her rounds. The conference room was still occupied, so she cleaned the surrounding offices and hallway, keeping an eye on the door. Around 2 a.m., she saw James, Diane, and Philip leaving. Diane and Philip headed toward the elevators, but James returned to the conference room alone. Curious, Maya waited nearby, pretending to clean a display case. Through the glass wall, she could see James gathering his things. Then, to her shock, he deliberately knocked over a half-empty coffee cup, sending liquid across the table. He glanced at the mess, shrugged, and walked out, passing Maya without a glance. "Good night, sir," she said clearly. James looked at her, surprised that she had addressed him. For a moment, their eyes met, and Maya stared back steadily, breaking Denise's usual habit of looking down. "Right," he said finally, clearly uncomfortable with direct eye contact from someone he considered beneath his notice. He hurried toward the elevators without another word. Maya entered the conference room and cleaned up the spill, her mind racing. Tomorrow was the big meeting with Tomorrow Technologies, and both Maya Richardson and Denise Walker would have roles to play. What had started as an observation exercise was becoming something more personal. James Parker didn't just represent himself. He represented an attitude that had taken root in parts of her company. As she finished her shift in the early morning hours, Maya made a decision. It was time for Denise Walker to witness what happened in the daylight hours at Apex Innovations, and for Maya Richardson to see how her team performed when they thought she was watching. Maya woke with a start, momentarily disoriented by the sunlight streaming through her bedroom window. For the past 2 weeks, she'd been sleeping during the day and working through the night. Today was different. Today she needed to be Maya Richardson, CEO of Apex Innovations, for the important meeting with Tomorrow Technologies. She checked her phone to find several messages from Thomas. Everything set for the meeting at 2 p.m. The team has been working all night on the presentation. "Are you still planning to attend as yourself?" Maya smiled and texted back, "Yes, I'll be there. And I need a favor." After a quick shower, she stood in front of her closet, looking at the sharp contrast between Denise Walker's simple work clothes and Maya Richardson's executive wardrobe. She selected a tailored navy suit, professional yet approachable, and paired it with modest jewelry and low heels. Today's transformation would be from Denise back to Maya, but she found herself bringing a bit of Denise's perspective along with her. At noon, she met Thomas for lunch at a small cafe near the office. He raised an eyebrow when she entered. "You look different somehow," he said after they'd ordered. "Different how?" Maya asked, curious what he was seeing. Thomas studied her face. "I'm not sure. More grounded, maybe? What have you been learning out there in the cleaning trenches?" Maya leaned forward, her voice low despite the private booth. "More than I ever expected. Thomas, we have some serious cultural issues to address. It's not just isolated incidents. There are patterns of behavior that completely contradict what we claim to value as a company." She told him about James Parker's behavior, about the hierarchy she'd observed. about the insights she'd gained from Carmen and the other cleaning staff. Thomas listened intently, occasionally asking clarifying questions. "So what's your plan now?" he asked when she'd finished. "The undercover operation has served its purpose, hasn't it? Time to come back to being CEO full-time?" Maya shook her head. "Not quite yet. There's one more thing I need to do. That's where I need your help." She outlined her plan for the afternoon meeting. Thomas's eyes widened, but a slow smile spread across his face as she explained. "That's bold," he said when she'd finished. "But if anyone can pull it off, it's you." They arrived at Apex headquarters separately. Maya entered through the main lobby for the first time in 2 weeks, nodding at the security guard who greeted her warmly. "Good afternoon, Ms. Richardson. Haven't seen you in a while." "I've been around," she replied with a small smile. "Just not always where people expect me to be." She went directly to her office, where her assistant Michael jumped up in surprise. "Ms. Richardson, I didn't know you'd be in the office today." "Last-minute decision," she said smoothly. "I wanted to be here for the Tomorrow Technologies meeting." "How are the preparations coming along?" Michael quickly updated her on the day's schedule and the status of the presentation team. James Parker and his group had been in the building since early morning, making final preparations in the conference room. At 1:30 p.m., Thomas texted her, "All set." Maya took a deep breath, checked her appearance one last time, and headed to the conference room. As she approached, she could see the team inside. James, Diane, Philip, and Asha were arranging materials and running through their presentation points. They hadn't noticed her yet, giving her a moment to observe them through the glass walls. James was clearly taking charge, gesturing expansively as he directed the others. His confidence bordered on arrogance, so different from how he'd appear in just a few hours when faced with Denise Walker. Maya entered the room, and all conversation stopped. "Ms. Richardson," James said, recovering quickly, "we didn't expect you to join us so early." "I wanted to see how preparations are coming along," Maya replied, keeping her tone neutral. "This client is important to us." "Absolutely," James agreed eagerly. "We're fully prepared. I've personally overseen every aspect of this presentation." Maya noticed Diane's slight eye roll behind James's back and suppressed a smile. She'd seen that same expression last night when James had made similar claims. "Good to hear," Maya said. "Walk me through what you have planned." For the next 20 minutes, she listened as the team, primarily James, outlined their strategy for landing Tomorrow Technologies as a client. The proposal itself was solid, but Maya noticed how James consistently positioned himself at the center of the work, subtly diminishing his colleagues' contributions. "And you've all contributed to this presentation?" Maya asked pointedly, looking at Diane, Philip, and Asha. "It's been a real team effort," Diane confirmed, shooting a meaningful glance at James. "Though James has certainly taken the lead," Asha added diplomatically. James smiled, clearly pleased with this acknowledgement. "I believe in taking ownership," he said. "That's how you get ahead in business, right?" Maya studied him thoughtfully. "Teamwork and leadership aren't mutually exclusive, Mr. Parker. The best leaders elevate everyone around them." Before James could respond, Thomas appeared at the door. "Sorry to interrupt, but the Tomorrow Technologies representatives have arrived. They're in the reception area." "Earlier than expected," Maya noted. "Let's not keep them waiting." As they walked to reception, Maya observed the team dynamics. James immediately positioned himself at the front, ready to make the first impression. Diane and Philip exchanged knowing glances but said nothing. The meeting itself went smoothly. James was undeniably charismatic and well-prepared, guiding the potential clients through the presentation with confidence. Maya spoke when appropriate, adding the weight of her position as CEO to key points, but otherwise allowed the team to take center stage. When the formal presentation concluded, Maya invited the Tomorrow Technologies representatives to tour the facility. "We're proud of our workspace and the people who make Apex what it is," she explained. "Every role here contributes to our success." As they walked through the building, Maya made a point of intro, introducing not just executives and developers but administrative staff and maintenance workers as well. She noticed James growing increasingly impatient with these interactions, checking his watch when he thought no one was looking. By the time they returned to the conference room for final discussions, it was nearly 5 p.m. The Tomorrow Technologies team seemed impressed, and preliminary agreements were made for follow-up meetings. After the clients left, Maya addressed her team. Excellent presentation. I believe we've taken a significant step toward landing this account. She turned to James specifically. Mr. Parker, I'd like you to compile a summary report of today's meeting. Include everyone's contributions and next steps. Of course, he replied smoothly. I'll have it on your desk first thing tomorrow. Actually, Maya said, I won't be in the office until the afternoon. I have a project I'm working on in the morning. The team dispersed, with James heading back to his office to work on the report. Maya returned to her own office where Thomas was waiting. Well, he asked when the door closed. Enlightening, Maya replied. He's completely different when he knows who's watching. Now for phase 2, Thomas checked his watch. You have a few hours before your night shift. Are you sure about this? Maya nodded. Absolutely. Have the items I requested been placed in the janitor's closet on the executive floor? Just as you asked, Thomas confirmed. The cleaning cart has been fitted with a small camera, and I've informed security that you'll be conducting a facility inspection tonight, so they won't question your presence if they see you on the cameras. Maya smiled. Perfect. Now I need to go home and transform back into Denise. That evening, Maya returned to Apex headquarters as Denise Walker. She found Carmen in the staff room preparing for the night's assignments. Denise, I was wondering if you'd be here tonight, Carmen greeted her. You seemed upset after your run-in with Mr. Parker yesterday. I wouldn't miss my shift, Maya replied with Denise's quiet determination. Any special assignments tonight? Carmen consulted her clipboard. Same as usual, executive floor. But there's a note here about the conference room on 35 needing extra attention after a big meeting today. Maya nodded, hiding her satisfaction. Everything was falling into place. I'll take care of it. She gathered her cleaning supplies and headed to the executive floor first. Most offices were empty, but as she'd anticipated, a light was on in James Parker's office. Through the glass wall, she could see him working at his computer. Likely on the report she'd requested as Maya Richardson. Taking a deep breath, Maya knocked gently on his door and entered with her cleaning cart. Evening, sir. Just here to clean up, she said in Denise's voice. James looked up, clearly annoyed at the interruption. Can't it wait? I'm working on something important for the CEO. Sorry, sir. I have a schedule to keep, Maya replied, beginning to empty his trash bin. James sighed dramatically but continued typing. Maya cleaned methodically, keeping her eyes down but fully aware of his occasional glances of irritation. The tension in the room was palpable. As she was wiping down a bookshelf, she deliberately knocked over a small decorative item. It clattered to the floor without breaking. Sorry, she said, quickly bending to pick it up. For God's sake, James snapped. Do you have to be so clumsy? Some of us are trying to do real work here. Maya straightened the item in her hand. Real work? She asked, her voice still Denise's but with a hint of steel that hadn't been there before. Yes, real work, James repeated, turning to face her fully now. Look, I don't mean to be rude, but there's a hierarchy in this company for a reason. I'm preparing an important report for Maya Richardson herself while you're just cleaning. Maya set the decorative item back on the shelf, taking her time to place it perfectly. And you think that makes your work more valuable than mine? James seemed taken aback by her question. Well, obviously. I'm a director. I handle million-dollar accounts. I'm on a career track to the executive suite. And without people like me cleaning this building every night? Maya asked. There are hundreds of people who could do your job, James said dismissively. What I do requires education, skill, connections. Maya nodded slowly, taking this in. Then she reached up and removed the gray-streaked wig from her head, letting her natural hair show. She took off the glasses next. James stared at her, confusion slowly giving way to dawning horror as recognition set in. Ms. Richardson? He stammered. Yes, Mr. Parker, Maya said, her voice now fully her own. Apparently there are hundreds of people who could do my night job. I wonder how many could do my day job. The color drained from James's face as he realized the full implications of what had just happened and what he had said to his CEO while thinking she was just a cleaning lady. I don't understand, he managed to say. That, Maya said quietly, is precisely the problem. The silence in James Parker's office stretched on for what felt like an eternity. Maya stood calmly, the disguise of Denise Walker literally at her feet while James remained frozen in his chair, his face a mixture of shock, embarrassment, and fear. I never... He finally stammered, struggling to find words that could possibly repair the damage. Maya held up a hand. "Don't say anything right now, Mr. Parker. I think you've said quite enough already." Her voice was quiet but carried an unmistakable authority that had always been there, even when she was playing Denise. "I'd like you to go home and think about everything that's happened. We'll discuss this tomorrow in my office at 10 a.m. James nodded mutely, his usual confidence completely shattered. He gathered his things with shaking hands and left without another word, unable to even look her in the eye. After he'd gone, Maya sat down in his visitor chair, suddenly exhausted. The double life she'd been leading for the past 2 weeks had taken its toll, both physically and emotionally. But she'd learned things she could never have known otherwise, truths about her company that no quarterly report or employee survey could have revealed. She picked up her phone and texted Thomas. "It's done." "He knows," Thomas responded immediately. "How did he take it?" "About as you'd expect," she replied. "Like his whole world just turned upside down." Which I suppose it did. She gathered the elements of her Denise disguise and placed them in a bag. Then she continued her rounds as if nothing unusual had happened, cleaning the executive floor with the same care and attention she'd shown for the past 2 weeks. It felt important somehow to complete this final shift, to honor the commitment she'd made to understanding this aspect of her company. Around midnight, she made her way to the staff room for the usual break. Carmen looked up in surprise when Maya entered, still dressed as a cleaner, but without the wig and glasses. "Denise, what happened to your—" Carmen's voice trailed off as recognition dawned on her face. "Oh my God, you're Maya Richardson," Maya confirmed, extending her hand. "It's nice to meet you properly, Carmen. I hope you'll forgive the deception." The room fell silent as the other cleaning staff realized who was standing among them. Teresa's mouth fell open and Hector nearly dropped his sandwich. "But why?" Carmen asked, finding her voice first. "Why would the CEO pretend to be a cleaner?" Maya took a seat at the table, suddenly aware of how tired she was. "Because I needed to understand what was really happening in my company. Not what people tell me in meetings or write in reports, but what happens when they think I'm not watching." She looked around at their stunned faces. "And because people like you see and hear things that I never would. You know this building and the people in it, in ways I couldn't possibly understand from the executive floor. So all this time, when we were talking about the CEO, about you were just sitting there listening?" Teresa asked, a hint of worry in her voice. Maya smiled. "I was, and I was touched by what you said, Teresa. About me stopping to learn your name that time. I remember that moment too." Gradually, the initial shock gave way to curiosity, and the cleaning staff began to ask questions. Why had she chosen to work as a cleaner specifically? What had she learned? What was she going to do now? Maya answered honestly, sharing her observations and insights from the past 2 weeks. She told them about her encounter with James Parker and watched their expressions shift from surprise to satisfaction. "That man needed a wake-up call," Carmen said firmly. "But what happens now? Will you fire him?" Maya considered the question carefully. "What do you think I should do?" The question caught Carmen by surprise. "You're asking me?" "Yes," Maya said simply. "You've dealt with his behavior longer than I have. What would be just?" Carmen thought for a moment. "Firing feels too easy, actually. He'd just go somewhere else and be the same person. If he really learned something from this, maybe he could change, become better." Maya nodded, impressed by Carmen's wisdom. "That's exactly what I was thinking." As the break ended, Maya stood up. "I want to thank all of you. Not just for the work you do every night to keep this building running, but for accepting Denise into your community. I've learned more from you these past 2 weeks than in a year of executive meetings." She reached into her bag and pulled out business cards, handing one to each person present. "My direct line is on these. If you ever notice problems that need addressing, or if you have ideas about how to improve things around here, call me. I mean it." The next morning, Maya arrived at her office early. She'd gone home after her final shift, slept for a few hours, and returned to Apex as herself, though she felt forever changed by her experience as Denise. Thomas was waiting for her, coffee in hand. "How does it feel to be back in the executive chair?" he asked, handing her the cup. "Strange," she admitted. "Like I'm seeing everything differently now." She gestured to the stack of folders on her desk. "I've made some notes about immediate changes I want to implement. We can discuss them after I meet with James. At exactly 10 a.m., her assistant announced that James Parker had arrived. Maya took a deep breath and asked for him to be sent in. James entered tentatively, a far cry from his usual confident stride. He was impeccably dressed as always, but his face showed the strain of a sleepless night. "Please sit down, Mr. Parker," Maya said, gesturing to the chair across from her desk. James sat stiffly, his hands clasped tightly in his lap. "Ms. Richardson, before you say anything, I want to apologize. My behavior was inexcusable, and I completely understand if you want my resignation." Maya studied him for a moment. "Is that what you think should happen here? That you should resign?" James blinked, clearly having expected a simple firing. I don't know. What I said to you, what I've apparently been saying about maintenance staff for some time, was disrespectful and elitist. It goes against the company values." "Yes, it does," Maya agreed calmly. "But I'm less interested in punishing you than in fixing the larger problem your behavior represents." She stood up and walked to the window, looking out at the city below. "What I learned during my time as Denise Walker is that Apex has developed an invisible hierarchy, one that isn't on any organizational chart but is felt throughout the building. Some people are seen as important, others as dispensable. Some voices matter, others don't." She turned back to face him. "You didn't create that culture, Mr. Parker, though you've certainly embodied it. And firing you won't solve it." James looked up, confusion mixed with a hint of hope. "Then what will happen?" Maya returned to her desk and handed him a folder. "This is a new initiative I'm calling Walk in Their Shoes. Every executive and director in this company, starting with you, will spend 2 weeks working alongside our support staff. Not as a punishment, but as an education." James opened the folder and scanned the contents, his eyebrows rising. "You want me to work as a cleaner?" "For the first week, yes. The second week you'll shadow the cafeteria staff," Maya confirmed. "And while you're doing this, you'll head up a task force on workplace respect and recognition. Carmen, the supervisor you've ignored for 3 years, will co-chair it with you." "Carmen," James repeated, clearly trying to place the name and failing. "Exactly my point," Maya said. "Your first assignment is to learn the names and something personal about every member of the support staff. Not just the cleaners, but security, maintenance, cafeteria workers, everyone who makes this building function." James looked shell-shocked but nodded slowly. "I understand. Do you?" Maya asked, leaning forward. "Because this isn't just about saying the right words now that you know I was the person you insulted. This is about fundamentally changing how you see the people around you." "I want to do better," James said, and for the first time, Maya heard genuine remorse in his voice. "I never thought of myself as that kind of person. Seeing myself through your eyes last night was eye-opening." "Good," Maya said. "That's a start." Over the following months, Apex Innovations underwent a transformation that went far beyond new policies or mission statements. The Walk in Their Shoes program expanded throughout the company, with executives and directors spending time in roles they'd previously overlooked. Name badges became standard for everyone in the building, regardless of position. The cleaning staff were brought in-house as full employees rather than contractors, with benefits and advancement opportunities. The task force led by James and Carmen implemented changes large and small, from adjusting meeting schedules to accommodate maintenance needs to creating a company-wide recognition system that highlighted contributions at all levels. 6 months after her undercover experience ended, Maya held a company-wide town hall. As she looked out at the gathered employees, from executives to developers to maintenance staff, all seated together rather than grouped by department or status, she felt a surge of pride. 6 months ago, I realized that despite our best intentions, we'd created invisible barriers within our own walls, she told them. Today, I see those barriers coming down. I see people acknowledging each other in the hallways who never would have made eye contact before. I see collaboration across departments and positions that was unimaginable last year. She spotted James in the audience, sitting next to Carmen. The experience had changed him profoundly. After his 2 weeks of cleaning and cafeteria work, he'd continued to have lunch regularly with the support staff, learning from their perspectives and advocating for their needs. His natural leadership abilities, now channeled toward unity rather than personal advancement, had made him an unexpected champion for the company's cultural transformation. Real change doesn't happen through memos or mission statements, Maya continued. It happens through experiences that shift our perspectives and open our eyes to realities we've been blind to. It happens when we're willing to put ourselves in someone else's position, literally walk in their shoes, and see the world as they see it. After the town hall, Maya returned to her office to find an envelope on her desk. Inside was a handwritten note from Carmen and the cleaning staff, along with a photo of all of them together during Maya's time undercover, before they'd known who she really was. The note read simply, "Thank you for seeing us. We've always been here." Maya pinned the photo to her bulletin board, a permanent reminder of Denise Walker and the lessons she'd learned while walking in another woman's shoes.